And this week I am celebrating your inner child. I've been seeing so many beautiful photos of all of these beautiful children that are in this room together with us and are on this journey with us. There's so much innocence and aliveness and playfulness and courage and openness and resilience. And I'm celebrating you and I'm celebrating your inner child. Your most playful, your most alive, your most truest being, and your authentic, beautiful frequency and vibration that you came into this world with. And for this week, I hope that you can celebrate yourself also in every way, shape, or form that comes naturally to you. I'm going to start this week with a story. This was a few years ago, and I had just gotten engaged with beautiful fiancé. And it was COVID time, and I were in this house with him, and we were both very new to this concept of trusting love and trusting someone else as deeply as we did at that time. And we were both on the medicine path. So one afternoon, my fiance had a dream and he came running down the stairs, so excited to share with me and also quite frightened. And I asked him, what is the matter? And he said, oh my God, I had the most incredible dream. And I felt the spirit or the soul. So the ancestors, like they showed me this dream and you have to hear about it. And I said, yeah, please share with me. And he said, I was dreaming that I was an angel as a child with these big, beautiful white angel wings. And I was so free. I had all of these feathers and I could fly. I could fly anywhere. I was so light and I was so free and I was just so happy. And I trusted myself and I could just spread my wings and go anywhere. I was like, wow, what a cool dream. And he said, yes. But then every single time I told a lie to someone else or to myself, I would lose a feather from my wings. And then when I became an adult in this dream, my wings were fully plucked. There was no feathers left. They were completely bare. And I couldn't fly anymore. And I felt so stuck. And so in disbelief, I didn't trust myself. I couldn't go anywhere. And I remember looking at him with tears in my eyes, just thinking, wow, this is an incredible dream. It's a medicine dream. And I said to him, I really hope that you try to integrate this, that they're sharing with you, because this sounds really important. Not understanding at that moment, that dream was not just a medicine for him, it was also medicine for me. Because a few years later, I had sacrificed every single feather I had to make sure that relationship was possible. I had given up most of my truth, my own freedom, money, desires, gifts, hoping that we would fly together, only to see that when he finally took off into the horizon, he left without me and I was there without any feathers left, and I couldn't even trust myself anymore. I felt like a plucked chicken in a city I didn't want to be in a country I didn't want to be in an apartment where I wasn't welcome, in a relationship that I wasn't welcomed. And the lack of this integrity was mirroring back everywhere. There was lawsuits, there was construction work, there was noise everywhere, there was fights everywhere. And I have to be honest, I had a few years of victim mentality and feeling quite annoyed and angry and traumatized, frustrated and depressed. And now I see it as one of my deepest lessons. I had to re-feather myself. and be really careful on a micro level not to pull a feather out of my wings. It happens in the smoothest way sometimes. You just say no when you're supposed to say yes, or yes when you're supposed to say no, or you make a little promise to yourself one day and then you don't do it. We are easily trained to become an inauthentic version of ourselves. So this image is from a speaking event at the midst of this difficult period of my life. And I had two feathers in my hand that I had actually taken from a pillow that I had stabbed the night before, because wherever I went to a store, I couldn't find a feather that you could blow and it would fly in the air. So eventually I gave up, like the day before the event, 200 people. I stabbed a pillow and I had a flying contest here in the living room, trying to find the best feathers that could fly. And I put the feathers in my hand and I said, and I prayed to the Great Spirit, and I said, please, Great Spirit, ancestors, ascended masters, angels, please let these feathers tomorrow fly to the person or the two people that really need a reminder that the spirits, they are listening and they are there for them, so that they can see that they're not alone. So the next day, in front of 200 people, all my favorite clients and friends at the most beautiful museum here in Barcelona, I blew these two feathers out into the audience, and I asked the audience, blow on these feathers. Let's see how high we can get these feathers together. And the feathers would fly higher and higher up on the ceiling. And eventually they started falling and descending down slowly into the audience. And eventually they both landed exactly in my hand. I didn't share with the audience the prayer that I had for these feathers. I could just feel that the Great Spirit, my teachers, my ancestors, were in the room with me that day, just to pay attention to and show me that that day I was that person that needed that reminder. It was a really difficult period of my life that I take very serious now when I work with clients in integration, when it comes to integrity in our energy field, our own coherence, our own resonance, when we work with integration, because they are two matters of the same flow or the same part. And I share that with you from coming from a journey where I myself plucked myself so that I eventually didn't have any feathers left. So this medicine I'm sharing with you today regarding the inner child is so important, because as children, when we are in our being, we are angels. We are fully covered with feathers, our own authentic, true nature on the inside, in our hearts, in how we are passionately showing up for life, our playfulness, our truth. If we don't like something, we cry. Oh, we cry with all of us. And if we like something, we laugh. With all of us. And I love what Osho says, that when you see a child cry, you know, it's beautiful because it's so pure, it's so real. It's just all of the child is crying. It's in one with the crying. And we are in our being. And then many of us learn, and some of us also have traumatic events where we literally get a shock and lose some of these feathers. But for most of us, we have taught ourselves to pluck some feathers to fit in to a world that has learned not to fly. So, my fellow angel, inner children and friends, let's get started. My first question for you this week is, where are you losing your feathers? Because you might have different areas in your life where you're like happily are plucking yourself, your own authentic truth, to fit in whatever social format or social agreement that you're having. And sometimes, and I find this very interesting, especially when it comes to social media and being seen in a circle, we don't see that we have social agreements with previous variations and versions of ourselves as well, previous relationships. So sometimes I am plucking my own feathers because someone at high school that always bullied me has a social agreement for me always being the person that shouldn't say something. So I keep plucking my feathers and not saying something or showing up or being loud or being true to myself because I'm trying to keep honoring a outdated social agreement. So if you're losing any of your feathers, it's really important to take a moment and hold that feather in your hand, holding that truth in your hand and saying, why did I let go of you? And who am I trying to either convince or impress or satisfy or adapt myself into? Who am I trying to give this feather to? This can be a very helpful dance for us in our integration process. Because each of these feathers, they are your original energy, they are your truth. And there is no way for you to be authentic without being in your truth. There's no way of you finding your path if you're not walking in your truth, because your truth is your path. So this is your life force, your clarity. And for most of us, we lose them because we have so many micro fractures, so many micro lies to ourselves. And for me, one of the most healthiest things we can do in integration is to let our feathers just grow out. No matter if we have some fractures from childhood, letting ourselves able to fly, to be able to be fulfilled within our energy field. Because I believe that is possible if we give our body, our energy field, a chance to let our feathers grow out again, because they grow up naturally if we don't pluck them. And if we don't, and we show up without any feathers, a lot of us are not able to float or to fly with our own energy field. We're not able to stay in equilibrium like a colibri that can just stay like this. We very easily collapse in our own energy field. And we're not able to fly with grace in the ocean, no matter what path that we are choosing, no matter what truth that is calling us forward. So this is so important. And maybe you can look around you and you can feel that there has been a feather already today that has been plucked out, or last week, or last year. But I want you to make a bit of an inventory with your own integrity. How many feathers are you losing? And who are you losing your feathers to? Now, as our original or our first version of ourselves, there was a first fracture. And most of us, we had the same journey. We were alive, we were aligned, we were aware, we were at one with the energy in the field. And everything, truth, just flowed through us. There was no separation between feeling and expression. And then, boom, stop crying. For me, it was you're too feminine or too girlish. Don't be weird, don't play with Barbie, be stronger, guys don't cry. That didn't happen. Whatever it is, that there's a separation suddenly. Maybe it feels like a not enoughness. Maybe it feels like a distrust, a betrayal. But something has created a gap. And this is where a lot of us goes into the performance of trying to fit into whatever role, whatever social contract that we feel will be the safest for us, even though every single lie that we will give to ourselves and to the world will also create a distrust to our own true self, and maybe only a trust to the character that we're building, the persona, because at least we're honest with that persona. And this is where I feel so many of us are also deeply struggling, because we have also grown up in a completely artificial world. So when we talk about integrity and natural devotion that comes from you spreading your wings and flying and enjoying your path, we are taught very early that discipline is a suppression. We have to go to school and we have to sit there and we have to do math and we have to do all of these things, go in and shower with the boys and be bullied and go to places where we might not at all feel aligned with, where we might not at all feel our aliveness. Some of us just want to sing or paint or be out in nature and forest. And we learn very early on that whatever my passion is, my needs are, who I really am on the inside, doesn't fit into whatever box this is. So that's when integrity starts feeling heavy, because it's associated with self-betrayal or something we can't trust. And true integrity is not a discipline against your true self. It's a devotion to what's actually true inside of you, what's actually alive and aligned inside of you. It's actually honoring your true nature, whatever that nature is. So false integrity is something I look at and see external control, obedience, force, burnout. And I also see a lot of people are in their persona. They have to use external control and obedience and force, and they usually burn out because they're not able to cultivate their natural energy. While true energy, true integrity and true energy is this inner coherence, right? This feeling of equilibrium where this inner colibri is able to maintain itself and enjoy itself being in its own energy field. There's natural devotion, there's natural flow, there's natural renewal, because we are this extraordinarily intelligent system. And when it's in its natural setting, it gets to recharge, it gets to be joyful, it gets to be blissful, it gets to be who you really are. And this is where one of the most interesting parts of the integration journey and the transformational work that I do with clients. I pay a lot of attention to the different characters that show up in the room. And I'm not sure about you, but for me, the characters were extreme growing up because I had different families and I would make a character for each of the families so that I made sure that each family would at least like me at the best level they could. And I would also make a character sometimes for different teachers, because maybe the biology teacher, I really liked it to be very outspoken and would compliment that, or maybe another teacher would like you to be not so engaged. And I started also seeing that other people and clients in my class, even if they were 8 or 9 and 7, 10 years old, 15 years old, would change and adapt themselves after what group they were in, what room they were in, even at school. A lot of us started putting on different masks. And some of us do that to survive and to keep the love and the safety. The challenge with these characters and personas is that some of the time, becoming an adult and going on our healing journey, we actually don't know what is the character and what is the true you, because they're so ingrained, or there are so many of them. And what I've seen with characters is that they cannot receive love. True love, true intimacy, true the juiciest connections with us human beings. A character cannot receive that energy, therefore is hungry and needs validation or different types of supplements, because it cannot receive the true nectar that is human and spiritual experience. And this is also why I love having the celebration circle in my work, because the character cannot be in the celebration circle, because the celebration circle is game over for the characters, because every single character that has ever been presented gets dismantled in the room, because now their job is only to receive from every facet of their being. Game over for the character, and quite challenging when the character has power and, of course, does not want to do that because it doesn't want to receive. So this is a very important part of our work. And what I also see in retreat work is that there are all of these different ways that these characters come to life when we're in the circle. And sometimes they are almost present like archetypes. You will have the sad clown or the angry clown, the healer, the mother. You will have all of these characters coming out to play. And we have to be aware of it. That is characters, and that is also beautiful energy that is moving the energy in the group. And we also have to try to find facilitation strategies, techniques where the character is not activated. One of those ways for me is for the client to send a video every single day, sharing about their experience during that day without any special goal or intention or validation or anything like that. What usually happens is that after 30 to 60 days, the client is so honest with their own true nature, their own words, that they start meeting themselves and witnessing themselves and accepting themselves. I had one client who worked as an executive in a very big corporation in America. And when I asked her when she wanted to work with me, if she was in a character or if she was her true self, it sent her into a very deep awareness journey for herself before we started this work. And she started to peel one character and persona after the other. And eventually, after making 90 of these videos, she fell in love with herself and for the first time, her own voice. A lot of people say, I don't like my voice in recordings. She started to receive who she really was. The characters got dismantled. And I remember the moment she got it, she ran to the mirror and took off all of her clothes because she thought, as a woman, at least I will be able to find judgment again around myself or that old way of thinking that I had, but it was gone. And this is what sometimes can happen when these characters are dismantled. We come back to this being where we don't have all of these judgmental programs against ourselves and all of these other ways that we can feed the characters and give them lots of power. Characters are not an enemy, but it is helpful that we as facilitators are aware that they exist and that when we also are on this transformational and spiritual journey, we create quite powerful characters that we then sometimes label as our true self, our being, is something that only you can define as your true self. And what I see being in the being energy is like being very close to your inner center, being very close to the sun. When you see children moving around, I just find it fascinating how much energy they have. But I also have seen when people are on ayahuasca retreats, even though they almost don't sleep and they are exhausted from doing deep work, when they get into their being, it's almost like eternal energy. There's so much power there. And like children, when we go out of our characters, they can't really receive energy and are utilizing a lot of energy and a lot of mental thoughts to stay operative. When we are in the being and we don't actually need even the mind to operate because we can just melt into the moment, we are reconnecting with our natural sun energy, our natural being energy. And this is where we can also become a true expression of this inner alignment that is always available to us. And when it comes to integrity, with our inner child in mind, being the adult, it's very easy to think that integrity and truth has to do with all these big decisions. Who am I? What is my purpose? What is my truest path? Though where I see the most challenges is actually in the micro truth, when we slow everything down and we take these small bits and pieces and start looking at them. And we start seeing these micro lies that we're telling ourselves with these micro thoughts that are constantly not fully honest. That's when I feel that we're actually transforming on a macro level. But everything in the world is created about microscopic elements, cells, microbes, particles. If you zoom out, even start micro in this universe scale, because there's so many of them. So slowing down to meet these micro thoughts and parts of us and having an inventory where we can feel these parts and be aware of them can create a lot of power for ourselves. So my invitation, if you right now are stuck in some of these micro truth concepts that the mind loves, what is the right way of doing this? And how can I do that? And how can I become this and that? I would invite you to slow down and visit the smallest truth that is trying to rise at this moment and see what that can tell you, and then follow with it as breadcrumbs to a bigger movement within you. When it comes to the architecture of integrity, I feel that integrity is that's our office in this job, because we have also spiritual dimension with ancestors and spirits that we work with. So integrity is our path, and we are only as professional or as safe as our field of integrity is. And therefore, I feel that integrity is the most important principles for anything that has to do with integration. And I hope that you don't take this lesson now and turn it against you and think, I don't have integrity, I lied to myself, or I lost all my feathers, but see it as a reminder that you are on the right path to bringing more of the medicine that you're seeking when you are ready for it, because we can't do all of this at once. And this is why I also inviting you to just slow down. If all you do today is to just notice one feather falling, then that is more than enough. Again, it's not on the macro level that makes the biggest transformation. It's the grace that can happen with one feather landing in your hand. Because for me, that's how the universe speaks. It doesn't speak through seeing the biggest chicken flying over the sky, even though I can't do that. For me, the universe speaks with the tiniest little feather touching your hand, just saying, imagine how brilliant that is of the divine if it's bigger than the entire universe. And then how it communicates is through the smallest feather. Like, oh, brilliant. It's not like an elephant reaching his hand down and shaking you. No, it's just so soft and gentle and sacred. We can all do a little integrity audit, and I think this is important every single day. What are the truths that we lived? This is where I see most challenges within our ayahuasca community. There's a lot of truth being spoken and very little truth being lived. There's a lot of truth and ideas being thrown in there in the air, and then there is nothing being actually accomplished or put into action. So we're creating a big disbalance. And you will see in the second session that I'm uploading around one of the dangers that I see in the spiritual work with ayahuasca. I'm explaining that danger through the lens of Kabbalah, which I think is very interesting. So feel free to see that if you have the time, but it's not necessary. It's more for us who are interested in some of the self-sabotage that can happen if we're bringing too much light into the system and then we're not integrating it and we're not bringing it into action. So the integrity audit is truth that you have lived. What did you think today or say, and then you acted on it? So you brought it from here through maybe your voice, connecting to your heart, and then out into your hand, and you manifested it. You turned it into a manifested reality. It didn't just spin around here, or spin around here as an emotion, or spin around here as the words you want to say. You brought it out. Truth that I avoided was something that you were wishing or feeling or wanting to say, but you didn't say it. What is the truth that I owe? And I find this one is very interesting. When I started my journey, I understood that I owed a lot of apologies. And then I started apologizing to the whole world. And then I understood, actually, the apology I owe is to myself. And I do this with every transformational integration client. I say, do you have any guilt or do you feel you have any need to forgive yourself? And most of them will always say no in the beginning of the journey. And they come deeper into the journey and they start understanding how they mistreated their body or their heart. And without creating guilt, they start understanding the forgiveness process that Esteban talked about, and also giving themselves the forgiveness that they've been seeking but didn't even know they needed to bring peace on a deeper level. So truth you owe, maybe it's to yourself, or maybe it's to restore the integrity, creating a new agreement where there is action. I love in previous coach, he would say to us, don't apologize to me. Instead, bring yourself into integrity. Share the truth, create a new agreement, and then show some action. So for example, that could be if I didn't do the dishes and we were together in the house today, and I would say, I'm so sorry, I forgot yesterday. I am prone to excuses. And now I just remembered how many times I said the last day, you don't have to apologize to me. And I apologize myself. So what I would do in that example, if I weren't supposed to excuse myself, I would say, I didn't do the dishes. I would create a new agreement. Can I do the dishes today? And then I would do it. So I create a new agreement. I put in the action. And therefore, I reinstored the integrity between us. Truth that I owe, truth that I avoided, truth that I lived. A simple integrity audit that you can do for yourself. And Esteban has already spoken about this book, but I believe it's one of the most important books on the spiritual path. Also, because we're developing a spiritual ego when we're doing this work. The 4 agreements, it's literally like an energetic hygiene manual. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personal because everyone is projecting, and you will see in the 6 weeks that I'm guiding you, you will see that projections, especially through the spiritual lens, are really powerful, and they are happening everywhere, in every relationship, in every format. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. You are here, so I'm pretty sure always do your best is something that you naturally do. And still, I see a lot of the be impeccable with your word is something that a lot of spiritual beings struggle with because they are so visionary and they see all these great things that you want to do and they speak it into these circles and they see the vision and they speak it in, and then they struggle to clean the dishes. There is this beautiful story about a guru that was living on a mountaintop in a monastery, and one of his students came to him and said, if I meditate and I become enlightened, what do I do? And he said, if you meditate and become enlightened, you can clean the dishes. And he would ask over and over again the same questions, and the master would answer him in the same way. And I remember hearing this when I was 19 from a psychologist. I did not understand why. Because this student, like me, said to the master, I want to go out in the world and I will save the world and I want to change the world and I want to use all of this wisdom and transform lives. And the master would just keep saying to him, just go and do the dishes. If you're enlightened and you have all of this energy you want to share with the world, go and do the dishes. And there was a quote I read on Instagram quite recently where someone said, everyone wants to do ayahuasca, but nobody wants to do the dishes. I think it's very important that we ground ourselves in the energy of our own words, of our own lives right here and now, that we always take the inventory. How do I feel? How is my body doing today? How is my mind doing today? Am I receiving myself, my own love? Am I taking care of myself? Am I being able to be impeccable with the words to myself? Am I being nice to myself? Am I doing my best on my path? And not go too far into the future or too far into this vision, even though I know you have amazing visions of everything that would be possible to do for this world, for yourself, for your family, your friends, your clients. It's really important that we always do our own dishes, that we always take care of these micro commitments that we need to keep our integrity, to keep our field clean and intact. This is where we have a challenge because a lot of the world that we're living in now is very artificial. So how do we integrate when so much of the world that we're living is completely artificial and makes it difficult for us to connect with our natural being energy? This is why we have nature practice in the beginning of this program, for you to have a practice so that you can connect to nature and connect to your being without having to do anything, to just have a practice of meeting yourself 25 minutes a day and be in the natural orders of things, to be there when the sun comes up so that you can meet also your own inner sun, your own being that is connected to all of this beautiful nature. And this is important for integration because there's only so much that we can do on a mental level or emotional level or a spiritual level if we're not able to take care of this beautiful temple and container that we're facilitating this life experience in. And therefore, there is no way that we can bypass the natural order that then connects us to the universe and to the river and to the ocean and to nature. And this is why we start this program with nature practice. So that's the foundation of whatever work that you will be doing for yourself and others. Then we move into emotion because that is the great river within you that flows through you. And without that, it becomes blocked and all of the energies get stuck up. And then we move to the mental plane because we need that beautiful mental element to be able to navigate this world. And then the spiritual element that again supports and encompasses all. If you want to align your inner child and the adult that you are now and have a bit of mental structure and like a container that you can grow with, I created a very simple framework a few years ago, and I just call it the 4Ps because for me, the inner child is naturally passionate. And I want you to feel that word, like passionate. When was I last very passionate? When did I wake up and, oh, passion? I think this is why a lot of us can have this tendency of loving to be a part of a love story because there's passion again. I, though, want to live a life where I'm passionate every single day. When I wake up, I want to feel that I can suck the marrow out of the bone of my existence. Like I really want to be all in this life experience, to experience it all. So I want there to be passion. So much of the passion that we had as children came completely natural. You were passionately crying, you were passionately excited, you were passionately waiting for Christmas or for your summer holiday or for your friend coming back from a trip. So that spark is so beautiful. to practice in integration and to invite back. And then what is really passion as adults? Most adults that we meet on our path that come into the work of integration, transformation will say, I'm looking for my purpose. Okay, but what is purpose without passion? Purpose is where our wisdom, where our body of work, where our service to the world can come to life. And it brings direction, it brings structure, it brings movement. But for me, purpose without the passion is a little bit like a cake without sugar or a painting without colors. Like it is lacking a bit of the frequency of vibrancy, of aliveness that I want to have. Because purpose without passion is a little bit like a training plan without really feeling devoted to it. It's like discipline has to come in then and help you fly and move. Then an inner child always brings playfulness that is godlike. A playfulness that can turn any rock into a masterpiece or a troll or something unique. And that playfulness, I feel when we have that playfulness and that laughter and not taking things too seriously, that playfulness is a hug from the divine. It is, I think all of this is a big, beautiful school, but it's a playful school. It's supposed to be playful and fun. So bringing that playfulness in your energy, into your day, I think it's absolutely instrumental to integrate your inner child with your big human adult. So now we have passion, purpose, playfulness. And then, of course, there is no way that we can have a life that is just playful and purposeful and passionate. If you're playful, purposeful, and passionate, you might be an artist, but then you might be lacking the last thing, which is prosperity. And prosperity is to be able to embody the sustainability and the safety and the structure, the rhythm and the container of you to hold abundance, for you to build abundance, for you to be able to not just eat the apple, but to also take out the seed and grow the apple trees that will grow into more apples. And this is an art form in itself. But when we invite these 4 P's together, then I feel there are 2 P's for the inner child, the passion and the playfulness, and 2 P's for the adult, the purpose and the prosperity. When we bring this together, we have a very complete map of how we can embody our inner child with a meaningful life as adults. So the child, it fuels the adult, and passion and playfulness, it ignites energy and creativity. Our adult protects the child, where purpose and prosperity give safety, rhythm, and grounding so that the child can run out and play and have fun and know that there is a roof over their head and there's safe, beautiful people taking care of them so they can go to sleep and relax. And together, they can create a life that is both alive and stable, passionate, radiant, fun, but still rooted. When all these 4 P's are alive, life is not divided between duty and desire. It becomes a single current, like a flow, where purpose is with passion and prosperity is with play. That's what I got for you this week, my friend. And if you feel called to go deeper into your own integration work, I offer 3 journeys. I lead an integration circle for people walking this path with ayahuasca. And I just completed finishing a 6-month integration circle with therapists, coaches, retreat facilitators, and those that are going deep on this journey. You can sign up at davidvox.com. And when you're ready for the second journey, that's the celebration circle. It is 6 months of celebrating your life and your gifts. And the first reaction many people have is, why on earth would I want to do that? And the answer is quite simple. How you get there is how you will be there. If you are constantly healing and hustling and hiding and performing or proving, do you think that once you arrive there, you will suddenly feel free? Because I see that waiting to celebrate until after you achieved the new job, had more ayahuasca, or fixed your relationship is not the answer. Celebration is not the reward. It's the rehearsal. It's the daily act of self-respect, self-honor, and gratitude. It's the integration of who you already are. And when you learn to celebrate who you are now, every future version of you arrives already welcomed. And when we refuse to celebrate, it becomes our unfinished work. When you learn to honor the ordinary, to bow to your own brilliance, to see your gifts and story as sacred, something inside of you shifts. You stop chasing your life and you start inhabiting it. You start living it. And every other part of your world begins to rise to meet you. Your relationship, your voice, your joy, even your income. Because when you live in celebration, you attract a life that celebrates you back. And the 6-month celebration circle is built for that. 24 facets, 24 live mirrors. Every call shows you a different angle of who you are, what you project, what you hide, what you're not seeing. And it ends with the celebration ritual where 20 mirrors reflects your gifts back to you. Your only job is to receive. And maybe for the first time ever, you will see your full, faceted, multidimensional, gifted, abundant self. And then there's the third journey, Sacred Impact. And this is the one for leaders in the transformational and spiritual field who have this great vision, depth and sensitivity, but they struggle to bring their service into tangible form here on earth. I've guided and coached over 5,000 leaders in the last 15 years, helping them create platforms and offerings that comes from a real alignment. Something that honors their integrity, their sensitivity, their pacing. And for 6 months, we meet as a group of 10. We bring your platform, your ideas, your service, your medicine into structure, into form, and into a rhythm that actually grows the tree you've been cultivating and produces the fruit you've been trying to reach for years. It's planting these seeds in a container where they can grow and bringing it into resonance and clarity, and then watching the fruits of this sacred work manifest in a way that finally feels true to who you are. You can find more information about these 3 journeys on davidvox.com. See you next week, my friend.